Hi everyone and welcome back to the Tasting Room. We're sampling today a Tennessee whiskey. This is Uncle Nearest. So a friend of mine came up to me the other day, and this guy is a straight hardcore Scotch drinker. Never found a bourbon or an American whiskey that he liked. It's just the corn content for him is just too much. It's just too much sweetness, he says. So I was surprised when he came up to me the other day and he told me, "Hey, Tom, I found I was at a bar, I was drinking, I found a bourbon that I can drink. It's called Uncle Nearest." So I was like, all right, well, I've got to check this out because, if this guy who was never found a bourbon that he liked, it didn't matter. Never liked it. So I was walking through the local liquor store and I found Uncle Nearest here, and now this is a Tennessee whiskey, but it is not labeled as a bourbon, and here's why. It's not because it's from Tennessee, because a bourbon just has to be made in the United States of America. Now I don't know what the mash bill is. I do know that it's about 90% corn and rye. For a bourbon you have to be at least 51% corn, which this very well may be. I suspect it is rather high corn content, just from tasting it earlier today. But this here is filtered through maple charcoal, and for a bourbon, the only flavor adder is the oak barrel that it's rested in. So this here is going to pick up some extra flavor from the maple wood charcoal, and thus just can't be called a bourbon. Doesn't make it any less of a whiskey, just not a bourbon. At any rate, the story behind this one is that Nathan Green, a former slave, also known as Uncle Nearest, was one of the early distillers in Tennessee, and I guess the story goes that he was actually Jack Daniel's mentor. I have no way of knowing how much of this is true. But this whiskey is twice distilled and 3 times maple charcoal filtered, which I guess is a 14-day process. Okay. So I'm getting some intensely sweet notes here on the nose. Definitely hitting some maple syrup. A little bit grassy. Kind of some subtle dried fruit notes in there. It's like some raisins or something. It's still sweet, but not that, not that classic bourbon sweetness. So maybe that's why this guy likes it. I don't know. I mean, he's a huge Macallan drinker. That's his bread and butter. And that's a sherry aged Scotch. So there's more of a fruity sweetness and less from the as opposed to a bourbon where it's getting a lot of it from the sweetness of from the corn. Okay, so very woody on the palate. Which I wasn't expecting, but kind of nice. There's kind of a soft fruity feel in the background there. More of that maple. And then there's kind of a bit of a richness, like a toasted almond or something. Finish very nicely done. This is a 100 proof whiskey here. It does have a gradually warming, kind of woody, peppery spice. But not too much heat. Good length on it. Yeah, this one finishes up nicely. Leaves you with a little bit of that toasted oak. And still a hint of that sweetness. Okay, so to rate this one here, we had the nose was a little bit sweet. Did have some nice aromas in there. You know, again some of that maple, but there was some dried fruit notes. A little bit of a grassy kind of aroma that can give it a little bit of an earthy feel there. I'm going to go ahead and give the nose 22 points. For the taste on this one here, again, that sweetness kind of dominated the palate. You know, with some of that maple, we did have some fruitier notes in there. A little bit of caramel, toffee-ish, and then a good intense woody feel. And the one thing about this, although we did pick up some some decent flavors here. Let's see, how do I explain this? There weren't a whole lot of subtleties. I was hoping for maybe a little bit more character. I don't know how old this one is. It drinks like a little bit younger of a whiskey though, and it's just my opinion. I don't know for certain. The finish on this one. You know, again, I was rather impressed by the finish. For especially being a 100 proof whiskey here, had a nice gradually warming kind of a woody spice to it. Good amount of length. I'm sorry, did I rate the taste yet? I don't think I did. On the palate, I'm giving it 21. Anyway, back to the finish. Very nice woody spice, good amount of length to it. Left you with some nice flavors on the palate at the end. I'm going to give the finish 22.5 points. And then the balance, I thought I had a fair balance of flavors. Perhaps maybe a little bit more, a little bit higher of a rye content would have helped to cut that sweetness a little bit. The flavor profile was a little bit maple dominant in my opinion. I'm going to go ahead and give the balance 20 points. And that's going to leave me with an overall score of 85.5 points for this Uncle Nearest Tennessee whiskey. Well, that's all today, folks. Thanks again for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up or leave a comment in the comment section down below. And then, of course, make sure you hit that button and subscribe to my channel if you're not already a member, and then hit that little bell next to the subscribe button to make sure you get notifications of new videos that come out. I do have one come out every weekend, and I'd hate for you to miss one, so go ahead and do that for me, and I will see you again next week, right here on The Tasting Room.